Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria. So the subject I'm going to talk about here is knife defence, but one particular point about it that seems to get people really riled up. Now, people inevitably feel more engaged with the subject of knife defence and what to do if attacked with a knife, because it's something that could still happen in the modern world. Mostly on this channel, I talk about obsolete weapons, swords, old-fashioned firearms occasionally, bows, crossbows, all this kind of thing, spears and such like. But when we talk about knives or daggers, it somehow seems more real for more people, and I completely understand that. It's sort of problematic for HEMA people because we study treatises that cover things like swords and spears and rapiers and whatever else, halberds, but they also cover knives and daggers. And so it's quite problematic for us operating in the modern world where we're teaching people an old system of self-defense essentially, or combat, that involves a weapon that's still used in the modern world. And sometimes some of us come under, not me particularly actually, but other people I've seen come under flack for things that they say about historical knife defence, because it could be applied to modern knife defence. Now, there's lots of people out there who have lots of strong opinions about what you should and shouldn't do against someone who attacks you with a knife. And there's people who come from MMA backgrounds, BJJ, or people who come from modern combatives backgrounds, or indeed law enforcement or military, or just, you know, any other martial arts you can think of, really. And they all have an opinion, or most of them have an opinion of some kind of what to do against a knife attack. Now, the one point that I'm only going to pick on one point in this video that I really have a problem with is there is a certain set of people who essentially seem to say, no matter what's shown, no matter what repertoire or techniques or advice or whatever else is shown or taught, their response is always, that's ridiculous, that would never work against an aggressive and determined knife attacker, you're just teaching people to get themselves killed. Now, if we draw back from the emotion for a second, if we pull back and look at bigger perspective, there are some people who say if you're attacked with a knife, always run away, and I wouldn't disagree with that as a general piece of advice at all. However, you can't always run away, and one of the problems I foresee with these people who just give the advice basically nothing works against a knife attack, or don't teach them that because that will get them killed, is the problem is it's ignoring the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is that you can't always run away, and sometimes you have to do something to defend yourself. Now, different systems and different philosophies will teach different ways of dealing with that attack when you don't have any choice but to deal with it. It could involve using whatever weapon you have to hand. That might be a pistol if you're a policeman, or it might be a taser, or it might, if you're a civilian, be concealed carry in some parts of America or some parts of the world. Certainly not in Britain. Or it might be using objects around you, be it anything to hand, like a chair, a coat, an umbrella, a light stand, anything. Or it might involve punching and kicking a lot, or it might involve trying to control the person's knife or dagger hand or arm as quickly as possible. These are all different options for how to deal with that attack. But the thing that I fundamentally have a problem with is people who always, as an automatic reflex action, whenever they see any sort of training against a knife or dagger attacker, they always go, that will never work, these people are just going to die, you can't beat a concerted knife attack. And, you know, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to just sit down and go, fair enough then, I'm going to die? Or do you try and do something to protect your life? And remember, it's not always necessarily about taking out the knife attacker. It might be about discouraging them or buying time. And that could involve, you know, shouting and screaming, throwing things, running around the room, doing whatever. It's a very, very complex subject. And basically protecting your life has many different complexities and levels to it. One final thing to say is that a lot of people point out that when we're studying from historical treatises, we're teaching to defend against weapons like this, or rondel daggers or whatever, whereas in the modern world you're more likely to either face a kitchen knife, which I think worldwide is the most commonly used type of knife in crime, or some form of pocket knife, locking, or a folding knife. Usually might be a fixed blade knife, but usually some sort of concealable knife, or it could be indeed a shank, like a prison shank. And all of these things are slightly different, of course. The repertoire does change. How you can oppose one of these, or a rondel dagger, or a screwdriver, is quite different to how you could oppose one of these or one of these. And even though these are probably the two most commonly used sort of things in the modern world, they are very different to each other, although they're both pointy and they both got a kind of edge. Not everything has an edge, but most things are pointy. The ways that you deal with them might be different. But this really comes down to detail. And really, to wrap up, I guess the issue I have, and the thing which really kind of annoys me, is when people, and sometimes people who, do martial arts or teach self-protection, when they kind of like, just to use a swear word, shit all over any kind of anti-knife technique that's shown. Now, I'm not saying that everything that's shown is good. Some things are bad and some things should be avoided. I'm not going to point out what they are, but definitely that's the case. There is some dangerous crap being taught, and definitely you should always try and use awareness and running away if you can, these kinds of things. But fundamentally, if you're forced into a situation where in that split second you can't get away and you must defend yourself against a knife, you must do something, okay? And I would say it's better to do something than nothing. So simply saying to people, oh, you can't do anything against a concerted attack, is just teaching them to lie down and do nothing. So that's no good either. That's just as bad as teaching people bad attitudes and bad things that will get them harmed. Cheers, folks. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on Facebook. You can buy t-shirts through Spreadshirt, support us on Patreon, or follow us on Pinterest. Thank you.